Dina, thank you so much for being here for our 2023 The Policy Circle Summit. We are really, really happy to have you.
Thank you, Laura. I'm so delighted. I really apologize. I can't be in person. I'm so disappointed not to be with you all, but excited to have this conversation and be part of the agenda.
Well, we are too. And as you know, this year's theme centers around unleashing our potential and particularly our economic potential. It's really the perfect topic to talk to you about because of your tremendous background in really working to help support underserved communities, underserved groups, including women, with getting access to capital and all those sorts of things. So I'd love to actually start the conversation there with you about why this kind of work is something that you've been doing for really the better part of, I would say, the last couple of decades.
Well, it's so interesting how important this issue is, and I think Policy Circle, really has focused on it as well from an advocacy perspective and women finding their voices, not just in industry or finance, but frankly really in important government issues as well. And I just want to, really commend Kathy Hubbard and Sylvie and the amazing team, Stacy at Policy Circle. It's just so impressive to see all that has been built just over the years since when I remember they came and first told me about it. And I love the concept, and it's never been, more needed. I also think that, we look around the world today and it's just crisis after crisis. And I really believe in some ways the lack of more female voices, on the policy stage, um, in the finance stage, in the private sector. It's just more needed than ever. And I think that's how we thought about it in 2007 when we launched 10,000 Women at Goldman Sachs. We had really seen through a lot of economic data and research that the power of female entrepreneurs and the power to unleash job creation, revenue growth, community building, and investment in the future of huge swaths of communities around the world, and particularly underserved communities, just was frankly one of the best investments that Goldman could find. And back then, not a lot of people were honestly talking about the economic empowerment of women. They were really understandably talking about women's rights as human rights, as issues around justice. And while that's so important, I think the thing that has moved the ball forward the most is really realizing the economic potential of women. And so now, over all these years, we've actually worked with nearly 100,000 female entrepreneurs. We've deployed over $1.2 billion of capital. And, it's just remarkable to see 80% increase in revenue, 60% new jobs being created, and 90% of women's income, new income generated, is always invested back into community. And so, we're just, seeing this grow, and many other companies have now joined in, on supporting this. I also think that when we talk about what's happening right now, for example, in the Middle East, and it's just so devastating,
Right.
and it's hard to not, raise it. The brutality and barbarism of the terrorist attack of Hamas, what we're witnessing when there was this huge moment of opportunity. I really believe that Israel and Saudi, I know, were very close to normalizing. And a big piece of what that was going to mean for the region was the continuation of reform for women. And while each of these countries, have a long way to go, they certainly take steps back. I definitely had witnessed a growth in the number of women at senior positions in business in Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates, in Bahrain. I mean, as you know, and I know that, Kathy Hubbard and the work that she did with Bridges of understanding so many years ago, I think none of us could have imagined that we'd be here today with the number of women in the workforce in the region. And I think that, we shouldn't give up on that hope right now, because I think the best revenge and the best hope for any kind of stability for the future of the region would be the continuation of the Abraham Accords, and certainly Saudi and Israel normalizing.
Yeah. So, Dina, you have access to this incredible group of women who are hearing you this morning, and many of these women, many of whom you've mentioned. in our conversation this morning. But what advice would you give them? These are women who wake up every single day ready to tackle big challenges, either through the policy circle or through their independent efforts. But what advice would you have? Because I know that so many of the women in this audience share your concern, my concern about what's happening around the world. What can we do? What's your advice for each of us in terms of our level of engagement and what we can do to really move the needle at this point?
Well, there are a number of things, but I have to say the power of the network. It's never been more important for all of us to feel connected together and working towards something, that all of us supporting each other, moving on initiatives together. I think it's why Policy Circle is so important, frankly. I just think that both physical and remaining in touch, all year. And frankly, some of the regional meetings that I've been part of are just, critical. And it's never been more important for women to feel like they have really a responsibility to support each other, an opportunity to support each other, and doing that in ways big and small. This morning, I had breakfast with actually Laura, a mutual friend of you and I's, and she's an absolute rock star. And she just left a very senior role at an impressive company, and here she is, one of, I think, the most dynamic women in business. And, she was feeling a little bit unsure, like, what am I going to do now? And meanwhile, there are already so many people that want to talk to her. But even just my reminding myself, I'm going to really be that voice of encouragement. I think of her as someone who doesn't need any encouragement. And I really just went through, like, it's really remarkable all that you've built. And here is why you should be thinking this high, not low. You should be a CEO, and all the experience you've had from an operational perspective from all these years in such an important industry. And it amazes me. And I suffer from it, when we all just feel that insecurity, especially when we're in between roles, when we are, trying to figure out how to really have impact in the world, commercial impact, philanthropic impact, meaningful ways to make a difference. And I think that the network of women is critical. I think that the kind of really reaching out and not taking for granted that someone doesn't need that extra push and support. In the span of the last hour, I've connected her with two people who are so excited to talk to her. And she certainly didn't need my help. But, I think I underestimate. We all need help. We need each other's support. We need each other's help. Frankly, I think the podcast, she said, and I'm not just saying this because you're interviewing me. I mean, I listen to those stories and I'm inspired. And I actually, like a couple of people, I've went and researched what they did and supported their causes. So the network, the platforms that give voice to incredible women, and finally, the being pretty honest about some of the challenges that remain. So, because for all the steps forward we feel we're taking, we're sometimes taking steps backward. And one of the things that I just always, talk about is the importance of sharing not just our successes with each other, but our failures, and recognizing. Certainly, I have had many, and for me, those are the moments I've grown. Like, those are the moments. I mean, those horrifying moments of just knowing you messed up, or you didn't succeed in something, or you bombed in a meeting, and just sharing that honestly with each other, because we don't do enough of that as women. And I'll give you a funny example. We were doing a client pitch at Goldman, and there was this incredible woman who worked for me who was so prepared, knocked it out of the park, went in, crushed it. And the two senior guys, it was like they had barely read the deck. I was kind of horrified. I mean, we ended up winning the client. However, we walk out and they're high-fiving each other, the guys, meanwhile, they'd gotten a key name wrong, and they got the wrong headquarters for the company. She had just crushed it. She made one tiny, nothing burger, mistake. And she was obsessing about it. She was like, you know what? I'm so sorry. And I said, what are you talking about? Those idiot men just went out and were high-fiving each other. They can do no wrong in each other's eyes. And meanwhile, you just crushed it. So let that piece go. Don't rehash that a million times in your mind. Let that go and move on, because you won the business, and that's what we should focus on. And I think sharing those kinds of stories with each other, really, I think helps a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love everything that you said. I also think it's important too, and you, because you're the mother of daughters, I am the mother of a son and a daughter. But maybe any advice that you have as we think about the next generation and ways that we can both inspire them, but also encourage them not to fall into these traps that feel just so natural for so many of us, and maybe advice that you give your own girls for, what to look out for and how to avoid these pitfalls maybe.
Sure. Well, it's interesting what this generation, how the kind of life they want to build. And sometimes it's a little different, I think, than the rat race some of us have been on. So it's a different mindset. I really do learn as much from them as I hope that I'm, teaching. I think, just especially kind of the teenage and college years, I've noticed that it's tough out there. There's a lot of pressures. There's a lot of, pressure to not say the wrong thing, or have the right friends, and I think kind of giving them that sense of security, that finding their path is what's most important, whatever it is they're supposed to do to reach their potential. And then having the right mentors. I'm always encouraging my girls, because I'm so fortunate to have friends like you, Laura, and incredible women that are role models. Spend 15 minutes, call Laura. She'll talk to you for 15 minutes, and you'll learn so much, and you'll have a great advocate on your side for whatever you do in the future. And those mentoring relationships aren't necessarily transactional, if you will. It's not meant to like talk to Laura so you can get a job, but rather, really build a real mentoring relationship. And I've really encouraged all of our girls to do that. We're so fortunate, as I said, to have so many incredible women in their lives, and it starts early. And if I always say the best mentor ever. Condoleezza Rice, Secretary Rice, is a mentor of mine and obviously a dear friend. And the most valuable thing she did for all the years that I worked with her and for her, was, she gave me tough love. She's pretty direct, but it was out of an enormous amount of respect and friendship for me that she would do that. And so I always kind of talk to my girls about the importance of those mentors that support you, but also tell you the truth.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said. I think that's so incredibly important. Any other sort of last parting words of wisdom, especially as we think about we're entering this season of giving? We are about to embark on Thanksgiving and then ultimately the holiday season. But any last words related to other ways that we can make a contribution or give back?
Sure. Well, so many in the network of the policy circle are just extraordinary philanthropists and do so much to support so many wonderful community organizations. I try to, around the holidays, I really think about where I'm purchasing gifts and sending things, because it's not just the gift, it's really the message that comes with it. And we had a wonderful initiative that we're very proud of, 1 million Black women. And there's a huge network of women owned small businesses, but also particularly women of color. And I always try to, buy a lot of things, from them, and then make a note of who it's coming from. And that branding for those female entrepreneurs, of course, is incredible. So, I really always, try to think about that. And I also think, I wish Laura, I wish you would run for office. I never want to do that. I was happy to have appointed office and serve our country. But I hope people in the audience are thinking about it. I mean, I look at Washington today, and I'm just going to be honest, it makes me sad. I think it's not the functioning government our founding fathers hoped it would be. I think we need so many more women to have influence in Washington. We really do need more. And I know that's one of the things Policy Circle certainly focuses on. And so just encouraging those people who have that, desire, it's really tough, but man, is it important. I mean, has there ever been a moment um, more clear that leadership matters around the world and in our own country? And so, I felt that was sort of on my heart to say, because I know there's so many incredibly impressive women in this group, and hope some will support female candidates, but also, consider running themselves.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that you just said that. This is most definitely an audience of women who many of whom hopefully will consider taking that big step. It makes a huge difference. We are so grateful to have had you for a few minutes this morning to help us kick off this next panel. I'm really, really grateful, Dina. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you all. I'm so sad I'm not there. Hi, and hugs to all of my friends.